Hello. Um, I'm just going to run through a little bit of the process of um, going through your old work and actually working out what you've actually done in your over the past 4 or 5 years, and working out how good it is, or where you are, or where you feel that your work is going. And it's something that I've been thinking about for some time. I had a growing frustration with the limitations of photography, but also the photography world that we were kind of all meant to aspire towards to be going into when we finished university, like entering competitions and whatnot. And I found myself very disillusioned by that kind of feeling, where I felt I was making work that was intriguing, but no one really seemed to pay any attention. And it wasn't from like an egotistical perspective. I genuinely felt what I was looking at and what I was working on was so important to me. I didn't quite understand why the competitive nature of it all. I felt it was very bizarre to me, and it made me feel very uncomfortable. Um, and then made my way into kind of stopping it altogether, and I went into illustration because I thought maybe that's another option that might work. But I realised that illustration is purely just for fun. It's one of those things where it's escapism for a little bit, and it's all right. It's a bit of fun, and you just kind of you draw something, and you can kind of get lost in it, and that's quite nice. And then I started thinking more and more about kind of what I was doing with illustration, and I wasn't really sure roughly what it was achieving. I mean, people enjoyed them, people found them funny, which was good, but did I really want to make work that was just funny? I don't know if I did. I think I really wanted to make a difference, or get people thinking about things, or get people excited, or to get people considering things in their life, even if they're very very small things. One of my recent favourite composers, I can't really pronounce his name very well, but Ludovico Einaudi. He's Italian, I think, and he explains human emotions, daily tasks in this amazing music. That's just it just kind of I can't explain it. It's just amazing, um, and it really got me thinking actually, because obviously I always wrote about photography, and then I kind of stopped doing that because I was just like, well, what's the point? I'm kind of just promoting other people, and actually forgetting about my own work, which is a big shame, really, because for me, if I think about it, it's the most important thing I do. Like whatever job I do, what my art or my practice is more important than that. It's way more important that I can get another job, but I can't get another practice. You know what I mean? And it's very much like it was so integral to what I was doing. And I began to do social experiments, pushing out different ideas with different. There was a like a. I was very intrigued about the way that I was very intrigued about the way that women were treated on kind of social media presences, like things like Tinder and dating sites and stuff like that. And I was kind of curious about that side of things, because I was obviously, from being the other side of it. Obviously, if I get a match, I'm quite excited, obviously, naturally. And then how do you approach conversation? And it's quite interesting how when it's the other way around, the conversation just comes to you, whereas sometimes the male perspective means that you have to kind of, I don't know, you have to be cautious, you have to tread lightly, and you have to kind of be very. I think sometimes I tread too cautiously when it comes to things like that, and actually that hinders my progress with those sorts of people. So I made this fake profile, this fake Tinder profile. It wasn't very convincing. I haven't really sorted it out yet, but the idea was that we I would note down everything that they would say to me, and I had like how many matches? I think it was like 200 matches within a week. Um, Six ongoing conversations, um, and it was very bizarre to be on the other side of things. But obviously, knowing who I was representing wasn't me; it was just something else. It was just a random character, and I would use a mixture of my friends' languages and the way that they would say things to try and make it sound like normal. So I did that for a bit, and I realised that it made me really sad because I was looking at my phone all day, and I realised I had so many messages I hadn't replied to, and it made me realise on the other side of things and the kind of the pressures that women do have in that instances. They're just looking for someone to meet or something like that, or maybe someone just to fool around with, but there's quite a lot of pressure on that side, and it's a lot easier for females to get that sort of attention. I think naturally because they're the way they're built up and the way they're made up. So it's kind of interesting. That was kind of the beginning, and then I went back into drawing again. But now more and more, I'm thinking more about performance and actually like trying to understand exactly that pressure that I felt when I was doing that, but not just over a profile, actually physically in real life, and how kind of what it feels like to have everyone looking at you, whether or not they realise that you're a male underneath it all. I don't know, but these are where my ideas are coming from. I'm becoming more and more increasingly interested in that kind of idea, just because I think it's quite a pressing issue at the moment as well, within myself, because I'm thinking I want to meet somebody, and if I'm going to have to use these profile platforms, and how do I depict myself in a way that is also credible but also doesn't show that I'm a timid, shy person, and I realised that all these profiles, I don't fit them. It doesn't work for me. I've met so many more people just randomly, just through friends, and instantly have real conversations with people instead of these fake, stupid little back and forth. So it was very much then performance-based things, and I was looking at this bloke called Ule, who's very famous performance artist, and he would have one half of his face like as a woman and the other half as a man, and it was quite fascinating how it goes. But obviously then you tread into territories like I don't know, drag performances, for example, which I don't really want to go towards, because for one, it doesn't really match my personality, because my personality is pretty much the same all the time. It stays the same, but it's kind of strange. I was very much more interested in that idea of kind of escapism, and how you can escape via another profile which doesn't actually exist. It's still you, but you seem different, and seeing how far that kind of goes in that sense. Obviously still keeping all of the main integral components of yourself. So it's not a case of wanting to escape to somebody else to be someone else. It's more just feeling the kind of things that probably women feel all the time. The pressures, and I don't know, even if you just go for a night out and stuff like that, it's hectic for them. I can imagine that some girls love it, but sometimes I don't know. It does worry me. It does worry me in the way the climate we're going at, and I kind of want to make work about that. I've done recently the work, just been doing, extending my writing into the kind of songwriting with beats, and I think what's so good about that is that if you did a live show, for example, you can get more people to your show because it's a music show. Whereas if you try to get X amount of people to come see a photography show, you're only going to get photographers. Whereas if you get a music show, and all of a sudden you've got everybody. And that's really interesting. And it's about tapping into those audiences, but also giving them something uncomfortable to look at. Something that is maybe confusing, maybe something that maybe confuses people when they look at it. But that's generally kind of what I'm looking to do at the moment. And it's the thing, it's very scary. It's a scary world, because you're putting yourself out completely bare into the world, and that's quite a scary thing. It really is quite a scary thing, but I think it's one of those things where it's really important. It feels like it's a really important thing, and it's so much more important than some of the projects that I used to do that I thought were my best projects. I realise now that those projects were just pictures, and photography theory is obviously all well and good, but it doesn't just it doesn't discuss the whole thing. It doesn't discuss the subject. We're just talking about the act of photographing in insane detail. And obviously it's stuff that we all know, and it's good that it's out there and it's good to learn it, but I think discussing the work of others just wasn't enough for me anymore, and I think that kind of finished when I was doing other people's pictures, because I made that realization. I went out to America on my own test shots of other people's pictures, so I would actively look for, I don't know, a Robert Frank or a William Eggleston, or something I've seen before. I wasn't looking for anything individual. These weren't my pictures, these were other people's. And again, I think I was in talks with a show, it was like Cardiff Looking for America, at Cardiff Photo Festival, and they just, the work they chose didn't challenge anything, it just kind of celebrated it. And that's when I began to think about, like, actually the process of the photography world, and what is the photography world, and do I have an interest in being part of it? And I flat out have no interest. I don't go and see photography shows anymore because it's all shit. Maybe not all shit, but I look at it and I just go, I don't know what I'm going to get from this. I can look at it technically, well, that's a big print. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, it's connected to this. But for me, I'm not challenged. I'm not challenged intellectually. And that's the thing. I think that's important when you're looking at art. It needs to make you change things. It needs to change your perspective on something. And I don't think photography is enough for me to do it. Well, obviously I'm talking on behalf of me, not anybody else, and anybody else can have a difference, an opinion in that sense. But for me, I feel quite strongly about it actually, and it's kind of interesting the way it is. So I might be trying to set up like a kind of little retrospective of the kind of things I've been doing, because no one's going to offer me a retrospective, naturally I suppose, but I'm too young and no one really knows what I do. But it's, again, I think just challenging things, creating something a bit more challenging and engaging, that's what really spurs me on. I'm looking now from my website and I can see pretty much lots of articles about other people's work, which I did enjoy. But then I'm looking through now and it's only really, I mean, my project called Recent Picture is probably the closest thing where photography and performance is beginning to come in, and I think that was a series of photographs just taken on the photo booth. Just took them whenever. So if I just woken up 3 in the morning after work, all these things. That was kind of interesting, and then how drawing came into it, and it's a series on my website called Depression, which isn't pleasant, but I would recommend you to have a look if you're interested. And that was basically just, I didn't know what was going on. I had this kind of moment and I just needed to get it out, just remove it. It was like the bad stuff was in me and I needed to just remove it. And this is what this did. And I remember my friend talked about it to me after, and I said, I was really worried about you. I was like, well, it's alright. It's just expression. That's all it is, it's expression. Because I needed to get it out. And again, this took me 3 minutes. But then it made me realise that actually expression can come in many forms. Expression is also, can come through performative elements, and I think that's what I'm interested in exploring now. So going from somebody who was doing gigs, gig photography, now I'm actually aiming to try and be on a similar platform, but not behind the camera, not hiding behind anything, just standing there and saying, look, this is what it is, this is what's going on. If you like it, clap, email me, whatever. If you don't, that's okay as well. That's okay. Talk to me. Tell me why you don't like it. And that's kind of interesting. That's pretty much where I am. I'll see where I go from there. But yeah. It's confusing, isn't it? Really confusing.